Hey guys, welcome to this video. In this video, we're going to be doing a thorough review of the TRIARC Systems 13.9 upper receiver. This review will be detailed and will incorporate my personal experience from purchasing, shipping, receiving, assembly, and rifle performance as it pertains to this upper on my build. I purchased this upper on my own and I have no affiliation with TRIARC Systems. Regarding my personal experience, I've been in law enforcement for over 13 years. Annually, I participate in external training that's separate from my department, which consists of training that's on the range and on the workbench. Additionally, I have owned and operated my own 01 and 07 as a secondary employment. Now, with that being said, let's hit the bench. So I built this upper on the TRIARC website through the drop-downs and the options that they offer. The upper was ordered with a 13.9 track 2.0 barrel, a dead air muzzle brake, a 13-inch rail, the TRIARC low profile gas block, which I had pinned, the NP3 M16 bolt carrier group, and a Radian SD charging handle. I did receive a law enforcement discount when I purchased the upper, and I paid just over $1,200. I ordered the upper in March of 2020 and received the upper the first week of July. This was a downside to me, being that when I purchased the upper, the website indicated a 4 to 6 week lead time. Now, I understand it was during COVID, but TRIARC never sent any correspondence regarding the potential issues with the order. When I paid for the upper, I received an email from the web store indicating the payment was successful, and that was all. I decided to contact them at the 8-week mark and make sure something wasn't wrong. And from there, the build was missing this, and it had that, then it had this, and it didn't have that, etc., etc. So for a short amount of time, I debated canceling the order, and I live 1,200 miles away from TRIARC in California, so I wasn't too confident about blindly spending over $1,000 for an upper that I had no experience with, whether it's with the upper and the company. I was, however, offered a refund, and I wasn't too sure about, really backing out on it 100%. The staff was actually very, very friendly, and so that kind of led me to just be like, I'll just keep the order in and just continue to wait. Once the upper finally was done, TRIARC contacted me, notified me, and they shipped it out 3-day with Select UPS. And it arrived on time, came to the front door right on time, just when UPS said it was going to be, in one piece and without any visual defects or deformities. Then I got it on the bench. Okay, for this part, I'll quickly hit the specification on the lower and move to the upper. The lower is a POF USA mil-spec lower receiver. It was off a basic Renegade rifle. I used to sell a lot of POFs in the shop, and I did receive that rifle for free through a dealer sales program. I've heard bad things about POF, but since I had mine, I had approximately 6,000 rounds to it on the range and in different training courses, and I never experienced not one malfunction or stoppage. Back in February, I was able to train with Chad Albright of the School of American Rifle out of Maryland, which is a phenomenal course, and Chad's a great guy. In class, we stripped the lower, then we gauged it. So several parts that were gauged included the magwell, which accepted the USGI magwell gauge with a perfect fit, indicating that the magwell was mil-spec, or it is mil-spec. The firing control group pin bores, those diameters were spec'd on both sides of the receiver to make sure that they were in line and that they were to mil-spec. Safety selector bore and the width of the dimensional spec between the takedown pins were also measured, and the takedown pin bore diameters as well. Additionally, the carrier key travel was inspected to make sure that the carrier key is not contacting the lower when it's cycling, and that was also within specification. Now, I run a Colt carbine buffer, a Colt carbine spring, and a Colt H2 buffer. I have gone back and forth between the H and the H2, and I'm still kind of testing that out, but with the H2, it's running just fine. The threads on both the Colt buffer tube and the POF lower were gauged in Chad's class, and they were legitimate class 3 threads. I have an OG Magpul CTR stock. I run a Myad grip. I have a Radian selector that I set up with a 45-degree throw and a Geisley SSA trigger, which is a sweet trigger. My buffer retaining pin is Colt. Pins, springs, and the trigger guard are courtesy of Forward Control Designs. Now, my castle nut is a Colt and my end plate is an Arrow. In class, I discussed with Chad the idea that legit class 3 threads in the back end should not need to be staked due to the superior fitment. So I elected to apply Vibratight, torque to spec, and see if the castle nut wouldn't come loose. Now, I only chose not to stake the castle nut because this isn't a duty gun. My POF had a proprietary buffer tube that was not staked from the manufacturer, and it used to loosen up after several hundred rounds. As you can see here, you can see where, because the castle nut would come loose, it would cause the tube to rotate, and you can see where the retaining pin was starting to do some damage on the buffer tube there. Anyhow, I have several hundred rounds through the rifle since SOTAR school and have not recorded any issues with my castle nut coming loose at all. So it's holding up like it's supposed to. The POF tube and the dimensional spec on the TRIARC carrier did cause a malfunction during my first 100 rounds with the TRIARC upper, but we'll get to that later. On the upper, the headspace was checked and verified with both 14636 and 14646 headspace gauges, which are respectively 223 and 556 headspace gauges. After the go gauges, the chamber was gauged with a 556 field gauge. The bolt closed on both go gauges and does not close on the field gauge. Also in the chamber, the throat was inspected, and it was found to have an actual 556 throat. So with that, we know that I can legitimately and safely fire 556 ammo in respect to the chamber, all the way through the chamber to the lead or the throat, etc. Okay. Now the barrel extension on the barrel is NP3 coated, and the barrel is nitrided. Since the barrel is a 13.9, it was pinned and welded by TRIARC prior to being shipped. The dead air brake was installed and timed correctly with shims. The pin job is clean and it did not enter the bore. I ran a bore scope through the barrel, which revealed a clean and smooth chamber, a clean and pronounced proprietary rifling from TRIARC, and a proper gas port with no burrs or etc., and a clean and pronounced crown. I have only disassembled the gas block in SOTAR class. Now the gas block alignment was bore scoped, and the gas block installed from TRIARC was aligned properly. It looked like the gas block screws were assembled with some type of Loctite. I'm not sure which, but I replaced the gas block screws with knurled gas block screws and applied 271, finishing with torquing the screws to spec. Gas key and gas tube alignment in the upper are spot on. The gas tube flange, which interacts with the gas key, was gauged and is also in spec. Although the gas key is larger, I have not noted any gas leak in these areas. I added pinning the barrel to my order, but upon inspection, I noticed that the barrel came dimpled under the gas port from TRIARC. If I would have known that the barrel was dimpled from TRIARC prior to, I wouldn't have ordered it pinned at all. The gas port measures at 74 thousandths and of course is a mid-length system. The upper receiver is a thermal fit. I use a MAP gas torch to heat it up to remove the barrel for disassembly and reassembly, and I have had no issues with that so far. It appears that the barrel was bedded by TRIARC, but may have been bedded with like a blue Loctite or some sort. There was very little applied. I lapped the upper and re-bedded the barrel prior to install. The barrel came with M4 feed ramps, which I performed a Colt-style 2-stage ramp job, including polishing the ramps. Although this was performed, I did not have any feeding issues prior to. Now, the bolt carrier group. The bolt carrier group was spec'd out and was spot on. The BCG3 bore was gauged, and the bolt shoulder, the gas ring run, and tail section diameters were all in the green, indicating a very efficient bolt carrier group. The bores are spot on, but the carrier size or length is on the smaller side. My carrier is measuring at 6.667 inches. The gas key bore dimension, which interacts with the gas tube flange, was gauged and is on the no-go side. I do not think that there is a problem with the gas key though. I believe that TRIARC is ordering the M16 bolt carrier groups, and then when they are manufactured, the manufacturer is leaving extra space in the gas key for mil-spec chrome lining. and obviously they aren't being chrome lined. On the bolt, firing pin protrusion was measured and is just over 32 thousandths. Bolt face diameter, bolt tail dimensions, and the firing pin hole diameter are all in spec. I replaced the ejector spring and the extractor spring with Springco springs. I used the mil-spec insert on the extractor spring. Now I did have a problem with the ejector roll pin hole. I did have an issue with that guy there. It appeared to be too small and it was damaging the pins I was driving in. So as you know, when you drive this pin out, you want to replace that pin there. It's just the regular mil-spec pin. As I would drive the pins in, they would break all the time. So I used some cutting tools and clean up the pinhole. After driving some in and out, they've been working just fine. As you can see here, it looks pretty good. Also on the ejector here, as you can see from the reflection, I beveled the ejector here as well. The malfunctions or stoppages that I experienced were failures to fire. I believe due to the non-staked POF buffer tube and the short carrier length. I also have to note that there was a carbine buffer that I was running prior to putting in the H2 and experimenting with the H. Ultimately, tolerance stacking was causing soft primer strikes, which at several times led to failures to fire. After replacing the tube, a new spring, and the H2, there have been no additional malfunctions or stoppages since. Now, I believe that lapping the upper will also help improve the short carrier issue and help keep the firing pin travel in its place. To finish off the rifle build, we have the 7-sided 13-inch rail. I measured the rail at the muzzle end and it measured 115 thousandths thick. At the barrel nut side, it measured 95 thousandths. The rail is stout and sturdy and it feels like a heavy duty rail. This rail is similar or it's the same as the Hodge rail or other Zav rail. They all have the same wedge lock system. The wedge lock functions properly. It's easy to install and uninstall and it does its job. It keeps the rail on really tight. It locks up on the barrel nut with efficiency. The rail also has an indexing pin which helps prevent rotation and keeps the rail in line with the upper receiver, which is also really neat for installation. I have ScalarWorks peak, front, and rear sights. I added my own witness mark on the rear sight with some red paint once I zeroed my rifle. I have a Steiner R1X as my red dot. This is a solid unit and has kept up with the abuse from all the training and everything that I put it through. I keep the sights in dot absolute due to my work rifle. It's issued and has A2 style sights. I won't get into it, it's whack, but the setup allows for a similar presentation while I'm training, so I keep it that way. Now to finish off the rail, I have a Cloud Defensive owl. I love the owl. It's big, but it puts out a ton of light. And it works very well. I wanted a light system without any wires at the time when I purchased this, or this is like one of the purchases that I've had. I wanted something without any wires. So this fits the bill for now, and it hasn't let me down so far. I have heard a lot of noise about mod lights, so I would like to eventually check those out too. I've contemplated getting a laser and so forth, but I haven't been able to spend the cash over buying ammo or signing up for more training. I sold the night vision that I had, and I don't use night vision for any reason besides that it's cool. Now let's get off the bench and hit the range. So in evaluating the cycles of operation, the addition of this upper receiver to this rifle build is exceptional. Extraction is consistent and it's spot on, and ejection is consistent at 4 p.m. from 223 to 556 and along the power range, and accuracy is on a mosquito's ass. It's a great rifle. As to QC from TRIARC, I think it's top notch. They may not be making the parts in-house, but in looking at the product that they're providing, the product that I received, it looks like they're taking their knowledge and their experience and they're putting together a phenomenal package and they're delivering that to the customer. So would I recommend a TRIARC rifle? Would I recommend a TRIARC upper or maybe a TRIARC lower? For sure, 100%. Do all the major manufacturers have their onesie twosies where sometimes something may not be 100%? For sure. But I think with the product that TRIARC is providing, coupled with their exceptional customer service, I think they'll take care of you. If it shows up to the door and it's spot on, or maybe if you get something that's not, maybe you get something a little out of whack, they're gonna definitely make it right. So would I recommend this? Yes, I would 100%. Would I recommend it as a duty rifle? 100%. And would I recommend it as a rifle to use to protect yourself and your family? 100%. And would I buy another TRIARC? For sure. Yes, I would, without hesitation. So with that being said, thank you for joining us in this video today. Stay safe and train.